I know people normally do this in November, but should I keep growing this? I'm like the reverse of Vinnie. Today we're going to be discussing some of the craziest theories I've seen for Pokémon Legends Z-A so far. More specifically, theories about why certain characters might look so familiar. But before we get into the theories, I want to give a quick shout out to my evil twin, Not Munching Orange. And unlike me, he's still stuck in 2015 making Let's Plays and recently started one of a fan game called Pokémon Z, which is basically what I thought Pokémon Legends Z-A would have been, actually taking place in the past of Kalos when AZ was still king. So if you miss my old style of gameplay videos, be sure to check it out. Now, let's begin with the possible return of a feature that I feel like most fans always want in Pokemon games, and may have just been confirmed in this trailer. Specifically in Pokemon Legends Arceus, I was pretty sad that we didn't have following Pokemon. You could send your Pokemon out and interact with it. You can even send out multiple Pokemon. Your whole team can just be hanging out. And there's been so many memes that have come out of this feature. But sadly, the Pokemon wouldn't actually follow you, as if you try to walk away from them, they just go back into the Pokeball. But it seems like in Legends Z-A, this might not be the case, as we definitely see in the trailer here, all 3 starter Pokemon walking alongside the player character. I thought at first this might be a little trailer trick, but it really seems like all the shots from this trailer are actual gameplay, where you can very clearly see the starter Pokemon walking alongside the trainer, which is just awesome. I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one that remembers it still from Heart Gold, Soul Silver. When that feature was first introduced, it was mind-blowing, and I've wanted it in every single Pokemon since then. So I really hope this isn't just a trick for the trailer, and we actually get following Pokemon in Z-A. But I noticed something even more interesting in the scene immediately after this one, where the male protagonist is sitting with Totodile at the cafe. And I've definitely seen a lot of people posting about how cute this scene is, but I don't think most have realized the implication here. Because in most 3D Pokemon games, you don't really get to sit on chairs. I mean, Pokemon X and Y did have benches that you could sit on and sometimes get a cool camera angle. But a lot of the games since then, the character doesn't really interact with the environment like that. So seeing the character actually sitting at the cafe itself is pretty weird, but seeing Totodile also sitting here makes me wonder if there could be more to this. And I know I'm probably reaching here, but I mean, that's kind of the whole point of this video. Pokemon X and Y had a lot of cafes, just like the real life Paris, but you couldn't really do much inside those cafes. Definitely it was just more for the aesthetic, so it's entirely possible that this is also just for the aesthetic, but I do wonder if there might be more of a gameplay relevance to this. Because we do actually see a couple other scenes of trainers chilling with their Pokemon at the cafe, like this little Eevee. Pokemon X and Y were the first games to introduce Pokemon Ami, which if you don't remember is a feature where you can play with your Pokemon and feed them Pokepuffs. And it was basically a way to increase happiness or friendship with your Pokemon, and actually in X and Y, the method by which you would get Sylveon. Not saying Pokemon Ami itself is coming back, but with Mega Evolutions being such a big part of this game, and the bond between trainer and Pokemon being a key part of achieving it, I could see the affection stat coming back and affecting how strong your Mega Evolution is, potentially even increasing that timer I've seen some people bring up in the comments. So walking with your Pokemon, taking them to cafes, could be ways in which you increase that bond with your buddies. But we've been looking at the main characters here quite a bit, and next I want to dive into one of the more popular theories I've been seeing around regarding the main characters and rivals being the same person? I knew from the first time I watched this trailer that the 2 rivals looked very familiar, and I couldn't quite tell why, until I realized it's because they literally are the protagonists. And by that I mean they seem to have the exact same character model. Usually in most Pokemon games, the character you don't pick ends up becoming your rival, but they usually look the same as in the character select screen. However, in Pokemon X and Y specifically, there is a small change in appearance for the character you don't pick in that they don't wear a hat. Other than that, it's pretty much the same character though, Kalim or Serena. But this just somehow feels different. Beyond just the appearance, I have a feeling the main characters are not going to be named Urbane and Tawny, it's just the rivals. Meaning these are entirely different characters, they just happen to look like our main character, and I really wonder why. I feel like the biggest clue as to what's going on here is undoubtedly the hair. It definitely stands out. I mean, pink gradient is a bold choice. I guess there's also the eye color. On the rivals, it's a very bright blue, But the hair in particular looks a little familiar to a certain Pokemon that's actually known for shape-shifting. I definitely don't buy this theory just because, especially after the whole Pokemon human scandal from the Terra leaks last year, having Pokemon posing as humans in the actual games is a territory I don't think Game Freak would actually commit to. Munch from the future here chiming in to say that we definitely have seen some Pokemon turn into humans before, mainly ghost types, but never for a prolonged period and definitely not for an entire game. Unless of course you believe the theory that N is actually a Zoroark. But there's been another interesting discussion regarding these rivals, not so much about like who they could be, but the fact that they seem to be locked to whatever appearance you choose. Basically you end up getting the opposite gender character of the one you pick, which a lot of people are disappointed by, myself included. Like, why can't we just get two girlies? They're both obviously way better designs than the guy characters, and that's not a hot take. But there's definitely some people in the opposite camp as well. And to both, I have to say that at least in Scarlet and Violet, you can basically customize your character however you want regardless of what appearance you chose at the beginning. So maybe at the end, the choice is completely arbitrary. Like, you're basically just choosing which rival you want in the game, and we'll end up being able to be whatever we want to be. Honestly, as lame, or I guess boring as it might sound, my personal theory would be that these rivals could just be hinting at how much more fleshed out character customization could be in this game. Both with the crazy hair and the very different outfits that these two are wearing, I feel like it could just be highlighting how much variety of customization we're going to have in this game. I'm really curious what you guys think about this though. Like, why do the rivals look like us? Could they be clones? Now, let's finally move away from the protagonist and talk a little bit about the antagonist, or at least the characters most people seem to be assuming will be the villains, Quasartico Incorporated. So let's start with Jett, because I feel like the theory I at least have is a bit more concrete than with Vinnie. Now, when I first saw the trailer, I pretty much compared her to every single blonde character in Pokemon to try and see if we could pinpoint who she could be related to, because like many of the characters that appear in this trailer, I just felt like she looked familiar. And the closest I found was Colress from Team Plasma, a character that not only appeared in Black and White and the sequels, but also Pokemon Sun and Moon and its Ultra versions. I know at first you might be thinking they don't look all that similar, besides for them both being blonde. But did you notice Jett here seems to have a bit of a blue streak in her hair? Maybe it doesn't look too blue here, but in the official art, yeah, that's definitely leaning more towards blue, which of course, Colress has a whole friggin' blue streak sticking up. It actually goes beyond just appearance, because on the official Pokemon site we learn that Jett hopes to deepen the bonds between Pokemon and people, and that's why they're doing the whole redevelopment plan of Lumiose. During his misadventures in Alola, Colress is researching what the best way to draw out the power of Pokemon is, which he ultimately determines is, of course, the bond between Pokemon and their trainers. Sound familiar? But in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon, Colress' story is further expanded. Specifically in the Rainbow Rocket episode in the postgame, Colress uses a special device he created to teleport the villains back to their original timelines. Now, he's most likely using a technology or science similar to the Ultra Wormholes, which themselves I've always found quite similar in appearance to the space-time distortions from Pokémon Legends Arceus. Their symbol appears in the loading screen of that game, and at least to me looks a little bit like the Quasartico logo. I know this one's definitely a bit of a stretch. I'm not sure if Quasars themselves are necessarily related to wormholes, but X and Y were the first games to sort of introduce this whole split timeline in Pokemon with the Mega Evolution timeline and the original timeline. So I feel like this could be a way to tie everything together, with Quasar potentially developing some way to bring people from or to other timelines. Even though they said the game takes place entirely within Lumiose, they could sort of like loophole that with future and past versions of the city that you can also visit. I have no idea how I got from Colress to that whole conspiracy, but there's one more character I want to talk about, and it is of course Vinnie. In my first trailer breakdown, I compared him to a certain green legendary, but I can't believe I didn't make the connection to the better green legendary dragon in Rayquaza. I mean, just look at his sideburns, bro. They are literally exactly the same shape as Rayquaza's jawline. I don't know exactly what to call that, but you know, it has the same shape. And Vinnie's gloves, shoes, and shirt also have a very similar green hue to Rayquaza's own. So this may just be the biggest conspiracy theory yet, but it is one I'm personally leaning more towards with every day that passes. What if Vinnie's actually a Draconid, or whatever the heck, the dragon people from the Delta episode, you know, Zinnia? Coincidentally, I made a typo looking up Vinnie Pokemon on Google, and look who it auto-corrected to. Obviously, he's making some kind of reference to Mega Rayquaza with his beard. And the Quasartico building also has this interesting wall here with a triangle pattern. You know, green triangles definitely make me think of Rayquaza. So it's just a couple too many coincidences lining up here for me, both with Jett and Vinnie. So I feel like we're definitely onto something here, maybe not specifically Vinnie being related to Zinnia, but at least having some kind of connection to Mega Rayquaza. Maybe Vinnie is the final boss and he's got a full team of 6 Pokemon plus Rayquaza, and then Mega Rayquaza as the secret 8th Pokemon, basically, just like Volo with Giratina and then Origin form. I guess it'd be a little too predictable to literally do the same thing as Volo again, but I do hope there's some kind of super boss in Legends Z-A. But I already know there's going to be a few comments mentioning it, so I'll at least bring up the fact that some people believe Vinnie could instead be related to Lysander, or potentially Vinnie is Lysander himself. As one comment pointed out that Lysander activating the ultimate weapon in X and Y could have granted him immortality, because even though the weapon seemingly destroys the entirety of Team Flare's headquarters, we never actually see what happened to Lysander. I mean, you assume he was crushed under the rubble, but if he's immortal, there's a chance he could have survived and is now hiding in plain sight, disguising himself as a hipster. I mean, think about it. Vinnie conveniently has a job where wearing glasses 24/7 isn't seen as weird. He's definitely hiding those soul-piercing eyes. But there's one more piece of evidence I'd like to present in the case of Quasartico somehow being related to Team Flare. And it's actually to do with the location in which they built their headquarters. So I once again hopped into Pokemon X and Y to see if we could locate where this building would have been in the original game, because a few people pointed out that it seems to be pretty close to where Lysander Cafe would have been, which if you don't remember was actually a front for Lysander's secret labs. The thing is, Lysander Cafe was literally in Magenta Plaza, but you could also access it pretty easily from Autumnal Avenue, which the Quasartico building appears to be right on Autumnal Avenue, so it seems that Quasartico Inc. may have actually been built right on top of Lysander Cafe, aka one of Team Flare's secret labs. So the real question is why? Well, it all ties back to a little something called Infinity Energy. If you're into Pokemon lore, you've likely heard of it before, as this was the energy that AZ used to power his ultimate weapon. However, this energy seems to be drawn from the very life force of Pokemon, meaning in order to revive his precious Floette, AZ basically sacrificed a ton of other living creatures, and that guilt was part of what eventually drove him to madness. Fast forward to Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, where the Devon Corporation has somehow figured out how to harness this infinity energy, and they use it to power a variety of machinery meant to better the world. But some secret documents in C. Mauville reveal that they seem to gather the infinity energy from the bioenergy of Pokemon. It's not made clear exactly what methods they used to gather this energy, but thinking back to AZ, I think we can put one and one together. One of the uses we see for this infinity energy is in the Delta episode, where the Moss Deep Space Center wanted to use this rocket full of infinity energy to teleport the meteor that was about to crash into the region to another dimension. Except of course, Zinnia stopped the launch, and then we end up destroying it with Mega Rayquaza instead. Which, speaking of Mega Rayquaza, infinity energy also seems to play a key role in Mega Evolution. In fact, Professor Sycamore believes this very energy is what allows Pokemon to Mega Evolve. And this is further proven by Mega Rayquaza being able to Mega Evolve without a Mega Stone, thanks to its special Mikado organ, which can absorb energy from meteors in space. And here's where it all comes together. As we know, Jett wants to deepen the bonds between people and Pokemon, a key part of Mega Evolution, which we just learned seems to release infinity energy. So by sort of normalizing Mega Evolution in Lumiose, there's likely a ton of infinity energy being released into the air anytime someone Mega Evolves, which I believe Quasartico is gathering. But for what purpose? Well, maybe they're trying to create wormholes or rifts into other dimensions. Or perhaps they're trying to power the ultimate weapon which was previously being researched right in their basement. After all, the original purpose of this machine was to bring Pokemon back to life. So maybe Quasartico's true goal is to bring back an old legend, or simply grant themselves eternal life. But let me know what you guys think of Vinnie and Jett. Am I onto something here, or did I overcook this one? I absolutely loved all the ancestors in Pokemon Legends Arceus, so I hope there is at least some descendants here in Z-A, or I guess grown-up versions of characters from X and Y. But that's finally gonna wrap up this video, so if you have any other crazy theories I might have missed, let me know in the comments below. And I've noticed a lot of new commenters on my videos recently. I feel like my channel has been getting recommended more recently, so if you are new around here, consider subscribing if you want to stay tuned for any other future Legends Z-A theories, conspiracies that I come up with. I definitely want to make a video breaking down the battle mechanics. There's a lot of theories that I've got there, as well as the potential mega evolutions versus regional forms of the starter Pokemon. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.